Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to the Sovereign Vibe podcast, where we talk about all things spiritual, the human experience, and everything in between. I'm your host, Renee Louise, and we will be sharing personal stories on the healing journey, how to overcome trauma of all kinds, and then thusly how to feel more confident as a starseed and empath, aka the sensitive, beautiful soul that you are. Let's begin today's episode. Hello everyone, welcome to or back to the podcast. My name is Renee Louise. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I have been guided to have an episode, and it feels like it could be a whole series. Every time I get like an inkling to make an episode, it becomes like this massive series type thing. So it's sometimes daunting, but we're just gonna start somewhere and see how we flow. 'Tis life. So today I am extremely guided to chat about shadow work and healing the shadow and what kind of are the shadows of shadow work. There's a lot of sometimes confusion. And I know for me early on in my healing journey, spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it, it was confusing. And it still sometimes is, because we're all collectively healing our shadow individually and again as the collective. So just want to kind of touch on some things and kind of begin a conversation around it, because I think it's so great to talk about sometimes the taboo of healing in general, right? So another thing I was really guided to pair this all with is a Holy Fire Reiki experience, where we can bring up what we may be really working on that we're having trouble with, like the block that we may feel, and what may feel like it's blocking our goals. So empowering our goals and also releasing the block simultaneously. So that will be towards the end. We'll do a guided meditation healing journey that William Lee Rand created, and just I love it so much. So much. So what is shadow work? I think everyone can have a different definition. It can mean something different to each of us, which is beautiful. But for what I have seen in my life and with my clients is that it's our insecurities, it's our pieces that need the healing, that need the love. But a lot of the times we're told to hide the shadow. We're told to just fix it and move on, or just not look at it, right? And it can feel scary, because when we look at something that is already scary or daunting, it can feel like it consumes us and we get lost in it. So how do we navigate, right? How do we allow ourselves to still do our human daily lives and process our shadow? The shadow work can also be a lot of ancestral work in terms of, for example, the feminine lineage for a lot of us females, or just humans in general, has a lot of stagnation around our emotions and pain and doing everything else for everyone else, and everything is last for us, right? It's hard to take care of our needs. So a lot of the times we're even processing our mothers' or our grandmother's emotions or physical DNA that isn't really meshing well with where our consciousness is evolving to. And we have to purge that and kind of understand, or try to understand, right, why it's coming up or what it is exactly. And it can get very confusing or entangled, enmeshed. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because it's such a huge part of healing in general. Even if you don't see yourself as spiritual, it's just even going to therapy and talking about these pieces that are the patterns or the domino effect of our generational patterning and culture that need to evolve, need to move, need to be felt and heard and seen and loved and honored, right? And I think that's the hugest part of shadow work that is a huge misconception, or at least for me too, especially around the ego. Like, oh, you gotta get rid of your ego, you gotta get out of that. Oh, don't want to live from your ego. But it's really about healing the ego so we can have a positive sense of self and identity and our ego is helpful unless it is stuck to these old shadow aspects and kind of trying to take the driver's seat. So a way of honoring the shadow can be totally different for all of us. And I think that's such the beauty of it, because we get to do what intuitively feels nurturing to our pieces, to these parts that aren't really accepted even in society. And I'm even, for some reason, and maybe this is a sign for someone, the K-pop Demon Hunters movie keeps flashing like in my eyes. So if you haven't seen that yet, or if you need to watch it again, like maybe that's a sign for you. It's very beautiful about shadow integration. That movie like blew me away. I didn't expect to cry so hard. But honoring the shadow can look like talking to our family about things, right? And asking them their lives and their stories, and seeing and understanding why the trauma has trickled down, and understanding maybe our family doesn't have the capacity to talk about it, and that's okay. But to even do deep meditation around what's coming up in our body and asking to be shown the information. I keep even hearing past life regressions are a great way to do it. Even just moving the body with intention to help remind yourself that it can process through our movement, through our emotional awareness. Journaling is also a really great reflective tool. Again, it's about making it your own, and especially talking with people you feel safe sharing and being vulnerable with, right? Because even the shadow is so raw sometimes. It's hard to even talk about or share. And it can make no sense, right? We're feeling what we're feeling. And I'll give an example from my own life, because it was a very tough time for me. It was, I get confused about the year and the timing, honestly, because it happened in two big chunks within a 1.5 2-year period. But I believe it was in 2022 and 2023. I kind of, throughout my life, always kind of had some back problems. It would like spasm, even really early on, and the doctors had no idea why this was happening, and it would make it hard to walk. Like, it just didn't make sense, this type of pain that would happen. And it got triggered again in 2022, and to the point where I couldn't walk, and it was a kind of sciatica thing. But anyway, I would go to the doctor. I even went to the emergency room a couple of times because I didn't understand this pain, and they couldn't understand it either. And I realized I started having flashes of remembering my childhood and physical abuse that happened when I was very, very young. And I had blacked it out. Thankfully, I had my brother to help remind me, because he was there to actually witness it, unfortunately. But it was all on that same side of my body. So my body had gotten to this place, or even maybe we could say the level of my consciousness was ready to process this trauma, ready to process what I had stuffed so deeply down in my subconscious even. And it was purging out. So it was tons of crying, having to just surrender to the feelings that my younger self couldn't process or understand, because it came from a family member. So it kind of really impacted my sense of security, or the feeling of not belonging, really, So it impacted my entire life. Like, I even am seeing these roots that went everywhere, but I didn't know it until I remembered it, right? And I see this for my clients too, in their own unique ways. And again, it can be so confusing, but the most important part is to try to have compassion and to listen and to feel it, even though it is so consuming and hard to process and hard to even function. Because even for me, the second round in 2023, I was like bedridden for a month, and I just had to sit with my feelings and process and ask for help when I could, or when I even didn't want to, because I just needed help. And that was healing a lot too, because from this trauma early on, I developed a really high level of independence, like hyper independence. And I think that's a common thing with women as well, or just humans in general. So it healed a lot, and it still is healing, right? We're constantly on the journey, but that shadow piece, for me, my example, was starting to get in the way of my expansion, starting to get in the way and become like somewhat of a self-sabotage, right? This internal dialogue of, I don't deserve to be here, or I'm not loved, or I'm not enough. Like, a lot of us have that deep programming from whatever situations we encounter, right? And they say that trauma isn't necessarily the situation that happened, but the lack of processing in between the time frame of it happening and us then getting to it or being ready for it. So there's a buildup, kind of like an infection of energetics, if you will. And that can even cause dis-ease in the body too. So there's a lot of reasons, again, why our body can be in pain and a lot can be happening. So it's just fascinating. And the more curiosity we can come at with all of this, the better too, because it was easy for me to also blame myself and be like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Like, this is not good. This is not normal. I couldn't even get like an MRI to figure out my back, So it can be really tough. And I recommend finding a community or people that can help you. I did a lot of acupuncture. I had to walk a lot to just move my body, even though it's hard to even stand upright. And a ton of crying and journaling and processing. So a lot of the time too, for most of my early childhood, there was a lot of bypassing that had to occur to survive. And I think that's a lot of what I've seen in the spiritual community too, of it's okay, just stay positive. It's okay, just stay positive. Like, it's the ego. It's not yours to deal with. It's the collective, or like, that's not always the case, but I felt it very early on in my spiritual awakening, even like a decade ago, that I had to just try to stay positive and ignore the dark thoughts, ignore my feelings, and like shove down my anger, But that spiritual bypassing can have such really strong, harsh effects, like kind of a whiplash wake-up call. So I had that as well throughout my life when I didn't understand the shadow work that is constantly here for us to do as an invitation to heal. And again, thus help the collective, help our families, help even the earth, So there is a fine line between staying positive and also allowing ourselves to travel into the darkness and investigate and to meet the pieces that feel so vulnerable and so kind of, you could even say, toxic, right? But that it needs to be fleshed out. It needs our love. So, and again, knowing it's a journey and we're going to be hit with waves. If you haven't been feeling like you're doing a lot of shadow work already, it's going to come in waves, and we're going to build and ascend, and then it's going to help us clean it even more so, right? So it's being conscious of the healing journey, not being linear at all. And to know too, when we're seeing the external of the collective healing or being triggered, or the shadow work that is so obvious now, then we can also say, okay, I'm seeing this shadow piece externally. Is it showing me also within myself where I can heal it more? Right? And the example that I'm even seeing now is like when we feel that we have to separate each other based on race, political, cultural, like all of that separation, are we then not accepting ourselves in some way? Which way are we separating our pieces? Kind of compartmentalizing, I'm hearing, and allowing those darker pieces that are hard to accept within even ourselves to be kind of like a dark room in a home that feels like a haunted house. So this podcast episode is especially just here to kind of invite you to reflect and to be as gentle as you can with yourself, and to know you're not alone at all on this journey of healing. And especially if you're doing really, really deep ancestral shadow work, it can feel really heavy. It can feel like it's all your responsibility, but that's another piece that I've learned It's just because we're aware of something doesn't always mean we're fully responsible and have to take on the weight of that. But using that responsibility with compassion and trusting the timing of how this will all heal is what can ease the weight of the trauma or the shadow, for example. And I hope that makes sense. Just looking down at some of my notes here. So yeah, and even trying to understand, what does my subconscious really believe, right? Maybe that's a great way to tap into our shadow if we're having trouble accessing it, because again, a lot of it is numbed out, right? We've numbed or have been numb to these pieces of normalcy of shadow work. I see it a lot from my clients too, where it's hard for some people to access their anger and to get it out in a healthy way, and they just glide over it and be like, it's okay, it's all right. Like, they like messed with me, I got hurt, but it's fine, everything's fine. You know, but there's a even inner child or a piece of you from the past that is pissed, so pissed, and that is valid, right? And if we don't handle that under subconscious boiling lava energy, like I'm even seeing Moana, we're gonna sometimes like strike when it doesn't make any sense because we have this anger and it like bubbles up like a volcano. And then we're going to be like all mad at ourselves. And it's this cycle of, I'm really upset that I hurt someone and got really angry out of nowhere, but yet we didn't go even deeper to realize where this was coming from. Right? So, and I feel really called to make this video at this time through Scorpio season, because I think the scorpionic energy feels so much and is so attuned. And a lot of us are so sensitive. And our subconscious is so raw sometimes that it, again, strikes when we've just hit our limit, right? And then we kind of scurry away and try to pretend like nothing happened, because we also then have to look at what came from that place of reaction and take responsibility for that piece. So again, I am still healing my shadow too and healing my ego. Like I think early on, again, when I first started really diving into my journey of healing, I thought there was going to be like, oh, enlightenment, ooh, everything's great. And I kept getting so frustrated when I would hit another wave of shit to deal with, you know, and it made me feel like a failure. And I think, again, that's normal, because this is all new for all of us. This depth of healing that we're doing and speaking about it is still so new. And even if you think about it, it's a new vibration, a new frequency we're bringing through all of this. So that's also too where our body's like, what do you mean I have to feel this dark shit I didn't ever want to like even be a part of, and feel it again to heal it, you know? So compassion is like the name of the game when shadow work is involved, for sure. A lot of it you could even do, I'm seeing, asking yourself to what your inner child really needs you to hear. You know, and an inner child can also be like yourself a year ago. That's kind of a blanketed statement of that. But our past self, right? Or maybe even past life, if you believe in that, if that resonates for you. Because all of us who are coming here so deeply to heal and to process are also processing just our soul's journey in one go, or in this huge, deep way collectively, to kind of like Tetris and clear and process so much so that we're quantum leaping, where literally our bodies are shifting into higher frequency vessels by us purging and releasing all of this. So it takes time, you know, and it does get easier. It does, again, because when we act on seeing things through the lens of compassion and more understanding, it helps it get easier, right? It helps us have compassion for our parents that didn't know better and may have treated us the same way that they were treated, if not worse or similarly. And it helps us then see even the surroundings back then for the past generations. There was no talk of mental health. There was no talk of spirituality in these different ways that we have now. Some people did, right? But yeah, it is a very expansive time. And the more that we can also check in with ourselves and just asking, like, is there something that I'm avoiding right now? Is there something that my body needs to tell me? You know, and a lot of that too is what I'm hearing is like even resting more than we think. And I'm probably saying this to myself, it's more than anything, because even the shadow around self-worth and all of the things that are tied to what we think makes us worthy in this world is crumbling. It's needing to heal, right? For a long time, I thought my self-worth was how like attractive I looked, or skinny, or rich, or successful of X, Y, and Z, you know. So our self-worth is also getting this shifting through the shadow work. And listening, again, I keep saying this way, to your body. Because it's gonna have ways of speaking to us that are different, and it's our wisdom coming through. And like I keep saying, if it gets hard to understand, write out as much as you can. And maybe like this is something I had to do too, but it's funny, it's coming through. It's like seeing it like you're trying to solve a crime and seeing the connective pieces, and are like, okay, my mother went through this, and no wonder she treated me like this, and I'm feeling like this now in my current relationship because of how she was treated. Or there's just this flow of consciousness, or our body's way of protecting ourselves, right? And it doesn't make it bad that we have these old protective mechanisms. It's helped us survive. And to then see, okay, we can release this piece of operating that is outdated, kind of clearing the computer system out and upgrading it, but still thanking the shadow of the old, right? And I think that's a big piece of finding our wholeness in every moment. Yeah, we're still going to keep healing and have something to work on, but we're still getting more and more down to our authentic selves. Every little step, every little nugget of darkness and light and contrast. Yeah. I hope that all makes sense. I feel like that was a lot all at once and really all over the place, but it felt very channeled through, and I try to just let this all flow. So let me just see if there's anything else that's coming through for us for this topic today. I feel like that's the main piece. There's always more we could talk about, and I'd love to hear if you feel like sharing what's been coming up for you with your shadow or hard to integrate. Another piece that, again, I think we all are working on, and something I've been doing deeply lately, is healing the relationship to myself in a way where I realized that I've been at war with myself, that we're somewhat, maybe totally, not just somewhat, programmed or conditioned to be at war with ourselves, to need to always change it and be marketed all these things that help improve our system or make us smaller or make us richer. And there's a war that we feel collectively on humanity, right? And to allow ourselves to see all the places we've been at war with ourselves, maybe even at war with our ego, and to allow us to sit with what that means in all the areas that really, again, has become so normalized. Because the more we are at war with ourselves in whatever way that resonates for you, it's gonna start to get more and more uncomfortable, because that is not our natural way of being. That's not what we came here for, but that's the world we're living in, unfortunately. And kind of fortunately, because we get to learn from that contrast. We get to learn from that shadow piece of being at war with ourselves, with ourself in here and out here. Right? And I think sometimes we also take for granted how effortlessly our body functions, even under this extreme amount of stress and trauma. You know, it took me a while to realize when my back went out to the point I could barely get out of bed I took for granted my health. The fact of mere walking and easily getting out of bed to go to the bathroom, like, we take for granted how well our body functions under such extreme conditions. So even seeing that as a way of how our body is supporting us, even when we're at war with ourselves, and think about how much better it can keep getting when we heal that bridge, when we heal that peace more and more every day of loving ourselves, loving everyone, even if we don't understand or agree or see it from their perspective, right? So just a little food for thought, because that's also where I'm moving through, you know. So I feel guided to pull a card for us, actually, and then we'll get into the Reiki experience, the Holy Fire Reiki experience. So let's see what card is meant to come through for us. Working with my Oracle deck, Sovereign Vibrations Oracle. Maybe taking a deep breath, because that was a lot. Maybe some stuff got triggered, and that's okay. The trigger is showing us where our next piece is to heal. You know, how to love and embrace what comes up, what's ready, what's bubbling to the surface. So we got the Pisces card. I feel guided for one more. So we got the Pisces card. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you can see the card here. The affirmation is my consciousness and subconscious are balanced within my divinity and physicality. My creativity is unlimited. I think it's really quite beautiful this card came out, because if you think about the Pisces energy, it's this kind of twin energy, the two fishes, the duality, especially within a spiritual state. So when we even find ways of using creativity to help us embrace our shadow, embrace both of our aspects, these twin pieces, the subconscious and conscious awareness, there is a lot of alchemy that can happen through our creativity. And I'm seeing even looking at it through the lens of a creative way and curiosity, however that resonates for you. The second card we got was Starseed Activation, which I think is also beautiful. The affirmation is, I call back all galactic fragments of my original soul signature, merging all starseed lifetimes into this now moment. So talk about past lives, right? A lot of you, if you are here, might really resonate as being a starseed or feel connected to the stars in whatever way that feels good for you or resonates. And there's a lot of wisdom, and my head feels like it's buzzing, like I'm really crazy right now. There's a lot of wisdom that our soul has experienced that we're ready to bring to earth. We're ready to heal. And a lot of that also can help heal that shadow piece. And a lot of the times too, we could have also had really dark experiences in the stars, in different galaxies I'm hearing, or different beings. And we even need to heal that piece so that we can feel more confident being our unique selves on earth in whatever way we're called to show up. So that I'm hearing is being activated for you, maybe, if that resonates, to embrace the shadow. And I love how we kind of got this dark and light card mixture with the zodiac of the Pisces. So it's trusting again that you'll integrate and activate and release at the perfect time. And I keep seeing like the metamorphosis of a butterfly, which is even what is my community and mentorship program, Quantum Metamorphosis. And they're showing me too, it's realizing that there's a lot of surrender that needs to come through for us to trust and to heal what we're ready to move through. I had to extremely surrender to the fact of my back going out and not understanding or getting any information from external people and only from myself. I had to surrender to the wisdom and the circumstance and trust that it was helping me get to somewhere better, right? So take that as you will. Oh, wow. So I feel guided to move into the experience for us today. I highly recommend to not listen to this while you're driving. So if you can pause it, if you're out and about, once you get into a nice comfy place, if you're already there, just get even cozier. And I will guide you through this experience. And I'll probably insert some music so you can have some nice background music. If not, you can totally put on your own music. Highly recommend something that feels very supportive and nurturing for you. I do recommend getting a journal because we're going to write some stuff down before and after the experience. So just letting yourself get all those things together. You could even pause the podcast and come back to it when you're ready. So this is the Holy Fire Healing Experience. I'm reading from my notes here, so if I'm looking down and you're watching the video, just know that. So again, this is Holy Fire Reiki, and this process was created by William Lee Rand at the ICRT. And yeah, it's very powerful. I will guide you through the visualization and the experience, and then we just open up to source spiritual consciousness, and it will guide you in whatever way you need to. This energy works with you on an individual level and helps process whatever you need to process at that time. You can do this multiple times if you feel called to kind of keep coming back. And again, it's bringing up a block that may also be in the way of a goal you're wanting to reach, or as we release, we also empower the new, right? So whatever is coming up for you, that is perfect. And we'll just move on through the experience. So I'll give you a little backstory here. Knowing as well that we're going to give this block or cause or problem an identity. Knowing that it's not you. This will allow you to focus directly on the cause and to release it. So by giving this problem an identity, it can be healed and allows you to have the awareness around it and not be so attached to the problem or the situation. And we're going to allow yourself to find where it is in your body, give it name, give it cause, give it textural, tangible energy or awareness. So just come into your body right now, taking a few deep breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Allowing yourself to settle with what may have come up during this podcast, this experience. We call in the divine healers, the angels, your guides, your team. That only the third heaven and higher frequencies are available to support us, to guide us. Taking another deep breath. If you think about this issue that you want to be healed, if this original cause or issue were to be located somewhere in your body physically, where would it be? And it's okay if you don't get a specific spot, just trusting whatever first comes to your mind. And it can be in many different places as well. And taking some time to tune into this area. And if this issue had a shape, what shape would it have? And you can write these down or just take note of them. And if this issue had a color, what color would it be? And if this issue had a texture, what would the texture feel like? Would it have a weight? Would it feel heavy or light? Would it even maybe have a temperature? Would it be hot or cold? And would this energy even have a sound? This issue, this space. And again, if nothing comes to mind, that's okay. That won't hinder the process of releasing this. So allowing yourself to tune into all these aspects of this shape. And letting yourself let go of that right now. Surrendering what came up. Letting yourself get very comfortable again. Taking more deep breaths in through the nose. And out through the mouth. It's a beautiful day, warm and sunny. You're walking down a path in a beautiful forest. As you breathe into yourself, you breathe in the life energy of the forest. And with each step that you take, you feel the energy of the earth flowing up through the bottoms of your feet. As you walk along, you notice another path going off to the right. You feel compelled to follow this path. As you follow this path, you come to a clearing in the forest, and in the middle of the clearing is a small hill covered with soft grass. Climb up the hill, feel the grass rubbing against your legs. When you get to the top of the hill, lie down in the soft grass. Feel the grass and the earth beneath your body and gaze up into the sky. Gaze up into the sky and see the beautiful white clouds. As you are gazing up into the clouds, a beautiful beam of light begins to shine down through the clouds. This is no ordinary light. It comes from the high in the heavens. The light shines all around you and flows into you, filling you with warmth and feelings of safety and love. The light focuses directly on the shape. Focus on the shape and be willing to let it go. Now gazing directly into this light, and as you do so, the light begins to guide you. Follow the light. continue with your experience as long as you feel guided to do so. When you feel ready, you can take a few deep breaths, allowing your awareness to slowly come back into your body, back into the room, bringing your awareness to your eyes and slowly opening your eyes and coming back into the room whenever you feel ready. You can take some time to write down your experience and reflecting on what the shape may look like now. Is anything different? I thank you all for being here. I hope that was a beautiful and great experience for you. Please feel free to share anything you feel guided to share. We can hold space for your experience. And I'm just going to leave it here so you can keep processing. And yeah, I'm just so honored to connect with you all. So thank you for everything you're doing, all this work, everything you even just processed. If you feel guided to come back to this again, you can work on another piece or more of what came up. It will do whatever you need for your highest good. Just intending for it to transform. I had such a beautiful vision of so many people being like breaking out of cages, breaking out of the shells that have been holding us back. It was like everyone coming out and celebrating. So just know that whatever you're experiencing is real and safe to feel. And I love you all so much. Thank you for everything. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sovereign Vibe podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. This podcast is sponsored by the Sovereign Vibrations Oracle Deck, a 63-card deck paired with sound healing music and guidebook where you can access over 8 hours of meditation music and get an exclusive free 30-minute reading upon purchase. If you feel guided to connect and have more guidance along your journey, please go to www.sovereignvibrations.com to book a free consultation call or any healing or channeling services available. Follow us on Instagram at Sovereign Vibe and YouTube at Sovereign Vibrations Renee Louise. Hope you have a beautiful day wherever you may be in the world, and stay tuned for next week's episode right here on the Sovereign Vibe podcast. Stay sovereign, you beautiful soul. Love you.